What is up, everyone? I am TST's the Mudman, and it is time to figure out what we are going to play this weekend in Gods Unchained. As I'm sure all of you know, the new set Mortal Judgment just came out. About 200 new cards flooding into the game and shifting up the meta a whole bunch, so let's jump right into it. We are on gudex.com looking at the Mythic meta as of one day, because Mortal Judgment came out less than 3 days ago, so all other data, 3-day and 7-day variants, are irrelevant because they have not Mortal Judgment data inside. So first thing we've got to mention is, just like last week, War is not represented on gudex.com, but don't worry, I did the calculus for you before the video started. As of a few hours ago, War made up about 6% of the meta, so it is the least popular god and the weakest god by far. In fact, we're not even going to talk about a specific War deck in this video because War is really weak right now, and your best possible weekend run definitely does not involve playing War. So before we talk about any deck list, let's go over each god and discuss what I think will be the most popular archetypes, so you got a good idea of what you're matching up against this weekend. So we've got Light, the most popular god. Light is still pretty much the same as it always was. It got a few powerful new tools, but it still, plays strong creatures in the early game, buffs them with creatures, buffs them again with spells, buffs them some more, and then wins the game. Nature is similar. It's still the same old aggressive mid-range nature, but just like Light, they got a few strong new tools, and nature feels real strong. Deception is primarily aggro deception, like often with like some sort of guild tribe synergy. Death is probably going to be a Nubian Death, which is a really strong new Mortal Judgment archetype. A Nubian Death feels really, really strong. I wouldn't be surprised if Death shoots up in popularity as the weekend goes on. And Magic is usually some sort of combo deck, whether it be like a Dralamir Aether Snap, an Archmea Aether Snap, a Portal Wrangler type deck, or even the new like 1 health archetype, like Echo archetype that they're pushing in the new set. It's going to be something combo-y. I imagine Dralamir Magic will be the most common this weekend ranked event, but in the future I wouldn't be surprised if that new like 1 health archetype becomes way better. And then War, you probably won't see it all, but if you do, they will likely be some sort of aggressive Slayer War deck. So, now that we have talked about the meta, let's jump into some specific deck lists. Alright, let's start things off with the most popular god in Light. This Light list was made by Bruto, and before we get into any of the cool new cards, there were some nerfs to some of the more powerful core set refresh Light cards. Let's touch on those first. As you can see, the Mace of Calling now only has 2 durability as opposed to 3. Wrong Path now costs 4 mana instead of 3, and Shield Bearer has 0 attack again, so as you can see, it is no longer in the deck. But Light did get a bunch of strong, new cards. We're not going to go over every card in the list. It's still the same, like, tempo aggressive Light list that we all know and love. But they did get some very strong new cards, one of which being this one right here, the Humble Benefactor. A 1-mana 2/1 with Echo. If you don't know, Echo gives you a 1-mana 1/1 copy in your hand with Soulless. So this is a 1-mana 2/1 with give a creature plus 1 health, which is really great for Light. It's also just 2 creatures and plus 2 health. Giving something like a Pacifist plus 2 health in the early game can be really big. Plus this is just multiple creatures for Light to buff later. Really, really strong. Then there is this card, which might be Light's best new card in the set. It's essentially just Light's Levy, but better. It is a 1-mana 2/1, but when you empower it for 2, making it 3 mana, you transform an enemy creature with strength 2 or less into a 1-mana Etheric Militant, and then you gain control of it. So it's just like Light's Levy, except for it's even more stats, and if you wanted to, you could play it as a 1-mana 2/1 if you really needed it. But a super strong new card. 4 copies of Light's Levy is really, really good. Let's see, then we've also got this card, the Vesper of Concession. It's a 1-mana 1/1 with Protected, so decent creature on its own. And at the end of turn, it removes 1 durability from your opponent's relic, so just some ongoing relic removal. Really good for dealing with Skull Scepters, and just a decent creature for Light to buff in general. Let's see. Here's another new Mortal Judgment card. This one's more of a win condition card. A 2-mana 2/2 with Empower 5, making it a 7-mana card, actually. I think this got nerfed. I think this used to be a 1/1. But yeah, now it's a 7 mana card. If you play for its power cost, it sets all of your creature stats to 5, so it turns all of your 1/1s into 5/5s for lots of damage. We've also got the Home Guard Protector, another new card, a 2 mana 2 or 2 mana 1/2 with Protected and Echo. So it's just 2 protected creatures for you to buff, super strong. Let's see, you got this other card. This is another new big AoE buff. In the early game, it's 2 mana for 2 little 1/1s, but in the late game, it's 6 mana. You get those 2 1/1s, and you also buff the rest of your board +2/2 and give them frontline. So that is quite strong. We got the Excitable Evangelist as well. This is sort of like a very slow shield bearer. 3 mana, give a creature +1/+1, and then Echo, get a pre-nerf shield bearer in your hand. So the first version is kind of slow, but it does what Light likes to do in buffing creatures. And then you get a pre-nerfed shield bearer. It's amazing. And then you do your normal stuff. Buff everything with Radiant Dawn, kill him. Buff everything with Prayer of the Desperate, kill him. Got your Axeman in here, great for controlling the board. Just standard Light stuff with a few new super strong new tools. Light has been really strong in the past. It should be just as strong, if not stronger. So if you enjoy playing Light, this could be a great deck for you. Alright, next up, let's go with Nature. I've got 2 different Nature lists to show you today. This first one is an aggressive Nature list made by Unknown. It's fairly similar to the Nature decks that we've seen in the past. We're going to focus primarily on the new cards. We all know about the Chirons, the Marshwalkers, the Black Jaguars, Underbrush Boars, but some of the powerful new tools that Nature has in its arsenal are cards like this new legendary Dagon. This is a 3 mana 2/3 with Blitz Regen 1. When a creature is healed, give it +1/+1. And if you didn't know, regenning counts as healing, so any of your many nature creatures with regen will get +1/+1 when they regen up, so that's super powerful. We've also got 2 copies of Barksworn Hunter, which is another new Mortal Judgment, like very powerful new nature card. It is a 4 mana 2/3 with Echo and Roar, give +2 strength to this creature, then it attacks a random enemy character. So it can go face or it can trade, which you can look at the going face thing as a positive or a negative. It could be burst damage or it could miss that important value trade. But either way, it's definitely a high impact creature. And the Echo copy, the 1 mana 3/1 with Pseudo God Blitz, is really, really powerful. So this is another really great new card, like really helping nature stay dominant. We've got Druid of the Cycle in here, another new card, 4 mana 3/4 with Echo. Obliterate a card in any void, add a 1/1 injured sprout to your hand. Personally, I have not played any of these nature cards, nor has anyone played them against me. So I assume the 1/1 injured sprout doesn't die upon you playing it, but it might. I think it's just a typo. We got Warrior of Paradise. This is a really strong new nature card. 4 mana 3/3 with Blitz. After this creature attacks, give +2 strength to a random friendly character. So, similar to the Barksworn Hunter, it's great immediate impact, and then the buff can either be bonus face damage or bonus trade damage. Definitely a strong card. This is an interesting one. Beast Liberator. I thought this card was trash. But Unknown here has 2 copies in his deck, and he's currently 16-0. This is a 5 mana 1/2. Ooh, so bad. But its Roar effect is summon a random 3 mana wild creature. So the 5 mana version is obviously pretty weak. The 1 mana version is really strong. It's 1 mana for a free 1/1 and then a 3 mana creature, so it should be plus value. I imagine the 1 mana card is really good with stuff like Wildfire. On 5 mana, playing the 1 mana version of this, getting a bonus creature to buff up with Wildfire sounds pretty good. Then we have Pack Succession, another really powerful new card. It's a 5 mana spell. You summon a random 5 mana wild creature. It attacks the strongest enemy creature. If your creature dies, you summon it again. So I imagine the dream would be like get a random Baleward Minotaur. It destroys itself while killing another creature. Then you get a second Baleward Minotaur. That's nuts. You can also get like mooses. There's lots of great 5 mana wild creatures that you can just have. This seems like a super strong new card. Let's see, we've got the other nature legendary in here, the Silk Spite, a 5 mana 3/3. After a creature is healed and roar, summon a 1/1 noxious arachnid with deadly and it performs an extra attack on a random valid target. So that's really strong, just like I said with Dagon over here. Whenever you regen, that counts as healing, so you can potentially summon a whole bunch of 1/1 deadly underbrush boars multiple times a turn. That sounds really strong. And the final new card in the deck is United Reinforcements, a new super powerful AoE buff for nature, a 5-mana spell. You pick 2 of the following effects. For your wild and Amazon creatures, you can give them +2 strength, +1/+1, or +1 health, and then heal them for 2. I imagine you pick +2 attack and +1/+1 like 99% of the time, so you can give all of your creatures +3, +3/+1. That is a huge AoE buff. Almost everything in your deck is either wild or Amazon, so it's going to be hitting pretty much everything and doing a ton of damage. All in all, this seems like a very strong, aggressive deck. All these Echo things, they're bonus resources. They essentially like cycle themselves for 1. So I imagine you don't like run out of steam, you know, too often with this type of deck, and you're definitely capable of dishing out lots and lots of damage. So if you want a strong nature deck to finish the weekend ranked fast, this could definitely be the list for you. But let's jump into the next nature archetype. This is an Amazon nature deck made by Mighty Uncle. In the core set refresh, they made a whole bunch of new Amazon cards, and as you saw in the last nature deck analysis thing, there are a bunch of new Mortal Judgment Amazon cards, so there might finally be enough good Amazons to make Amazon nature work. Let's see, as far as new cards that we haven't already discussed, we've talked about the Barksworn Hunter. That's an Amazon, super strong. The Paradise Warrior, we talked about that before. It's an Amazon, it's really strong. And then the other thing to take note of is both of these new cards are 4-mana cards, and your Amazon payoff cards in Arachmonian Onslaught as well as Mordo's Daughters are 5-mana cards. So if you can have lots of good stuff to play on turn 4 that are Amazons, you'll be able to buff them more consistently with your payoff cards. So more good 4-mana Amazons are really, really good for the archetype. We've also got 2 Swordbreaker Sages in here, another new Amazon that's very powerful. It's also an Echo card, a 3-mana 4/2 with Echo. Roar, remove 2 durability from your opponent's relic. And of course you get the 1-mana 1/1 version that also removes durability from your opponent's relic. So that's really good for destroying Necroceptors, which are key to the Anubian Death decks. It's good for destroying like maces. There's lots of relics floating around. Magic always plays relics. So relic removal is good. And just like we said with the Paradise Warrior as well as the Barksworn Hunter, 4-mana cards are really good to make use out of the buff cards, and this is a 3-mana Amazon that gives you a 1-mana Amazon, so it's another good 4-mana play, for your pre-buffing. Let's see, I think besides that, those are all of the new cards. Everything else we've seen, in the past or from the core set refresh. In the past, Mighty Uncle has done exceedingly well with Amazon Nature, whereas everyone else who plays his deck does horribly. You can see that the pilot himself is doing considerably better than the rest of the world, but this deck is doing way better than his last Amazon build for everybody else, so this could finally be the time for Amazon Nature to shine. And if you want to play Amazon Nature, then I recommend running a list like this one. Alright, so now let's move on to Death. And this week we've got an Anubian Death deck, a brand new archetype made possible by the new set. This deck list was made by me, and although I've only played 1 game with this exact deck list, I played a whole bunch of games with this archetype, and this was the final product. In fact, I played a whole bunch of games with a deck list that was just 1 card different. I didn't own 2 copies of Reach into the Black, so I just put in a random filler card, and even with that horrible filler card, the deck felt pretty much unbeatable. But I digress. Let's jump into how this archetype works. Like I said, it's brand new, and it revolves around playing 1-mana Anubians and then pulling them back from the void to play them again and capitalize on them. Those 1-mana Anubians are the Priestess of Taket. This is your main win con Anubian. It's a 1-mana 2/2. It's existed since Trial of the Gods, but it's never really seen play until now. It's a 1-mana 2/2. Whenever another Anubian dies, deal 2 damage to the opponent's god. Like I said, we are playing a lot of Anubians, and then we're playing them again from the void. So it's like the perfect card for the deck. We've also got 2 copies of the Raving Necromancer, which is just like a much worse version of the Priestess of Taket. It's also a 1-mana 2/2. Whenever an Anubian dies, you steal 1 health from your opponent's god. So half the damage that the Priestess does, but you do get a little bit of healing, so that's nice. And it's always fine to double up on the damage effects. Let's see, we've also got Vile Reaver. This is a new 1-mana Anubian. It's a 1-mana 2/2 as well. This has Blitz and Burn 1, so it's essentially a Vanguard Axwoman with the Burn. but the burn is usually beneficial because you want your Nubians to die. We've also got 2 copies of Wretched Vanguard, and the Vile Reaver and the Wretched Vanguard are important. You'll be playing lots and lots of those. This is a 1-mana 1/1 Nubian with Frontline and Afterlife. Steal 1 health from your opponent's god. The Frontline is very convenient for protecting your priestesses, and when you have those like necromancers and priestesses on the board, the extra 1 damage that this thing deals when it dies is like this thing can deal like upwards of 5 damage when your opponent kills it. It feels really good. Let's see. Now that we've mentioned the Vile Reaver as well as the Wretched Vanguard, seems like a great time to mention the Pharaoh's Heirloom. You'll be playing lots of Pharaoh's Heirlooms during your games. This is a 1-mana spell with Empower 2, and you'll almost always be playing it for its Empower effect, so it's pretty much a 3-mana spell. And you summon one of those 1/1 Wretched Vanguards and one of those Vile Reavers. The Vile Reaver is like a main part of your combo, because you can play them alongside Priestesses of Taket and then kill them off immediately and deal lots of damage. Let's see, we've got 2 copies of Curse of Greed. This is another new Mortal Judgment card. It's really strong. Destroy an enemy creature that costs 3 or less, which includes Pyramid Wardens, and you can empower 1 it to get a Pharaoh's Heirloom into your hand for more of those important 1-mana Anubians. Necrosceptor, like Princess of Taket, is a Trial of the Gods card, and it is now incredibly powerful. The entire game plan of this deck is to play creatures and kill them off immediately, and Skull Scepter deals 1 extra damage for each creature you kill. It's really good. It really racks up damage quickly. And now we have Reach into the Black, which is like a weaker version of your main win condition card. This is a 3-mana spell, also with Empower 1, get a Pharaoh's Heirloom, and you summon 3 random 1-mana Nubians from your void. Ideally, it's a Priestess, and then 2 Vile Reavers. You destroy 2 of your opponent's creatures, and you deal 4, maybe 6 damage if you have a Necrosceptor on the board. And, sounds like a super strong play. Let's see, then the final new card in the deck, the win condition, Land of the Dead, a 6-mana spell. Select up to 6 1-mana Nubians from your void and summon them to the board. So the dream scenario is to have 2 of the Priestesses and then 4 of the Vile Reavers. And if you kill off all the Vile Reavers, it's 16 damage directly to the face. And if you have a Skull Scepter on the board, it's 20 damage directly to the face, and that's usually enough to win the game. And if by some miracle it's not, you can just play the second Land of the Dead, and that will definitely win you the game. However, in my experience, you only need 1 Land of the Dead to win. Usually you will have done more than enough damage, through your Necrosceptor and your Priestess chips to just, deal 16 damage and just destroy them completely. As far as cards that aren't 1-mana Anubians or Heirloom getting cards, it's mostly just card draw. See, we got 2 copies of V-Rock in here to help get you to your Lands of the Dead. We've got 2 copies of the Burrowing Scarab, which is an Anubian, so your opponent will take damage when it dies, but that's very rarely relevant. It just draws you multiple cards, which is good for getting your combo piece. And then the final thing, we also have 2 copies of Untold Greed, more card draw. Ragnarok is actually very important. Not only is it good for, burst damage and early game board control, there are like corner case scenarios where on 7 mana you play Land of the Dead and you only bring back 6 Wretched Vanguards, and then you destroy them all with Ragnarok. And if you have Skull Scepter equipped, you're dealing 15 damage and your opponent can't play around it. So you got that going for you. That's one of the powers of Ragnarok. And the last thing is Pyramid Warden. Pyramid Warden has been one of the best cards in Gods Unchained since forever, but it is also an Anubian. Its tribe has never mattered until now. It's not a 1-mana Anubian, so it's not like a main synergy piece, but it is really nice when your opponent has to take 2 to 4 damage from killing your Pyramid Warden. That being said, if you don't have Pyramid Warden, it makes up like 80% of the deck's cost. If you want to replace it with like Wicked Phase would be really good in this deck. Nature and Light are the 2 most popular gods. They have access to Echo cards, which are inherently 1 health, so Wicked Fae will be really good at destroying those things. And then, if these style of decks become popular, they play lots of 1 health creatures. So Wicked Fae would be a great replacement for Pyramid Warden if you don't have it. But essentially, this is a brand new archetype. Like I said in the beginning, it feels almost unbeatable. It's really, really powerful. Mainly because you can just sort of drop your priestesses in the early game. You don't need to hold on to them for like big combo turns. You can just play them and get like 1 or 2 creatures killed off them, chip for like 4 damage, and then just bring them back later and kill them with your Land of the Dead. This is a really strong new archetype. If you're looking for something fun and new, then this could be a great deck for you. And next up, we've got Aggro Deception. This Aggro Deception list was made by JRock96. And this deception list utilizes what I like to call the guild splash. You see, a lot of the very powerful deception cards that you would run in any deception decks are guild creatures, like your switch duelists, your armor lurkers, your patient pickpockets. And this deck capitalizes on that with its 2 copies of Fermentari Instigator, allowing you to draw a card for each guild creature on the board, including your opponent's guild creatures if you're ever in a mirror match. But now we've talked about the little guild splash thing, let's talk about some of the cool new cards that are in this deck. So first off, we've got 2 copies of Shadow Step Backstabber, which is also a guild creature. This is a 1 mana 0/1 with Echo. When roar, steal 1 strength from the strongest enemy creature. So just 2 decent, 1-drops. They obviously synergize with that Instigator. Instigator loves 1 mana guild creatures. And you're just stealing stats away from your opponent while playing creatures. It's just a decent tempo card. It's also important to note that this deck runs 2 copies of Selfless Guildmate, which can buff any guild creature plus 3 attack. And although you're probably not aiming to buff up your Shadow Step Backstabber, it is available. Let's see, we've also got 2 copies of Blade Borrower, a 2 mana 2/1 Echo creature with Roar give -2 strength to an enemy creature, which is really great for dealing with opposing Pyramid Wardens, just giving them 0 attack to make them easy to trade into. Or, you can target both of the creatures onto a Guild Enforcer, make that 0 attack. It's not hard to think of scenarios where completely negating something's attack is good. Also is a guild creature for those Instigator turns or those Selfless Guildmates. And the final new card in the deck is Arms Dealer. This is a 4 mana 3/3 with Hidden for a turn and Echo. And at the start of your turn, you can spend 1 mana. If you do, you give +1 strength to all your creatures until the end of turn. So this is really interesting. It's the first Gods Unchained card where you can spend mana after you play the card. And the first version is not amazing. It's a 4 mana 3/3 that's hard to deal with, so it's not the worst card in the world. And then it can buff your entire board. The 1 mana 1/1 Echo version is definitely very powerful. You can play that to buff your board pretty substantially. Obviously, with your Orpheus Distraction God Power, you can hide a lot of your creatures. A bunch of your creatures have hidden naturally, like your Shadows of Lebanon. So having, multiple AoE, or potentially multiple AoE buffs each turn just for a little bit of mana seems very, very powerful. Let's see. Besides that, we do our standard Aggression Deception stuff. 2 copies of Dark Knives, 2 copies of Shadows of Lethanons for lots of potential early game damage. Switch Duelist is another decent buff target for your Dark Knives as well as your Selfless Guildmate. But you gotta be cognizant of maybe other deception decks taking its attack away and turning it to 0 on your opponent's turn or getting Lights Levied or something to that effect. We also have Guild Enforcer, which is not only a guild creature, but this guy loves to be buffed up and attacked by those Dark Knives as well as those Selfless Guildmates because of his armor. You can Orpheus Distract him every single turn, and he never takes any damage. He becomes a great alternate win condition if you ever need to race your opponent. But besides that, everyone knows Aggro Deception has been a very strong archetype for the past couple of weeks. And a lot of these cards, these new cards, rather, are very powerful, really pushing the archetype over the edge. So if you like playing Aggro Deception, then a list like this could be a great list for you. Alright, and last up we've got Magic. This is a combo Dralimar Magic deck made by Sneed. The Dralimar Magic archetype got a bunch of improvements with the new set, most notably in Alistrenia. This is a 5 mana 1/5 with Roar, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1, or Empower 3, do the same to your deck. I imagine you pick the Empower 3 option almost never. You can just get good cards in your hand and reduce all of those. You can even make your Dralimir back to 6 mana, and we all know that Dralimar at 6 mana is pretty much busted. Let's see, we've also got some powerful new tools in this new 2 mana creature right here. This is a 2 mana 1/1 with Echo. Afterlife, deal 3 damage to the enemy creature with the most health. So it's very reminiscent to something like Time Bomb. It has a much smaller body, but its secondary effect is much bigger. And the Echo version, the 1 mana 1/1 with the same effect, is incredibly strong, really good for controlling the early game board state, which is really important so that you can, ramp up and do your broken combo. Let's see, we've also got Rejected Dogma. This is a great new card for these combo archetypes, a 1-mana spell that can draw a card, or you can empower 1 and also deal 4 damage, and as long as you're willing to obliterate a card in your hand. So you can use this to cycle through your deck, activate some Aether Bugs, pings, or even deal that final chunk of damage to your opponent's face. Let's see, we've also got a copy of Equivalent Exchange in here, which is not a Mortal Judgment card. It's actually a Genesis card. It's just never really seen play until now. You can obliterate 2 cards in your hand to either unlock 2 mana locks or draw 2 cards. I imagine you're picking the mana locks almost every single time, considering when you have cards like Cram in your deck, obliterating 2 cards to draw 2 cards doesn't really seem worth it, but getting to 7 mana faster to play Dralamar does seem worth it. Let's see, besides those changes, it's pretty much the standard Dralamar Magic deck. You're trying to use your Helpful Aether Fox to, let's see, where is it? To make your Aether Snap cost 0. Then you play Dralamar, you play your Aether Snaps, you refresh your mana, you draw the rest of your deck, or at least you draw your deck until you get your 2 copies of Magic Inks, and then you play your 2 copies of Magic Inks on each other until your opponent inevitably hits 0. So if you are a fan of the Dralamar Magic archetype, and I highly recommend a deck like Sneed's, as you can see, he's played 8 games, they 100% win rate. The deck is absolutely unbeatable. Alright, so it is conclusion time. We've thought about the meta, we've looked at some specific decks. What is the best route to a successful weekend ranked event? Well, in my opinion, this new Anubian Death deck, it seems incredibly powerful. I think it could be the new best deck in the meta. But if you want something more tried and true, both Nature and Light have been performing really, really well. The decks are similar to how they used to be, just with a few new powerful tools. But whatever you go with, make sure you have fun. Tell us how you did in the TST Discord, and have a wonderful day. Hey, you! Did you know that subscribing to the TST YouTube channel will increase your win rate by 6.9%? So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. And while you're at it, equip Scythe of the Harvest and attack the like button directly in the face. Bye-bye!